After a year of imparting his wisdom to his class of 20 students, Mr. Zimet, the philosophy teacher, decides to test the skills of the graduating seniors on their last day of school. He says that while the knowledge they now possess will help them lead a good life in the outside world, it is also important to think about what would happen if the world as they know simply ceases to exist one day. For this, Mr. Zimet proposes a thought experiment that leads the class to imagine the world ending and having to take shelter in a bunker for a year to live through the radiological effects of the atomic holocaust. However, since the well-equipped and fully stocked bunker can shelter only 10 people for a year, and the class has 21 people, including Mr. Zimet, he calls for the elimination of the undeserving candidates to save the human race from extinction. To decide the worthiness of his students, Mr. Zimet gets everyone to randomly draw cards from a box that assigns various professions to them. The best student in class, Petra, gets to be a structural engineer, while her boyfriend James is an organic farmer. The other professions include a few useful skill sets like that of a carpenter, an electrician, or an orthopedic surgeon, and also a few others like a real estate agent, a hedge fund manager, and a fashion designer, which would essentially be of no real use in the face of an actual disaster. In a shocking move, Mr. Zimet cruelly ends the life of the student who was picked being a published poet. He justifies this act by saying that they had to be fast and brutal while filling the bunker with truly valuable skills if we're to take saving the human race seriously. He mentions that he will remain a wild card through the experiment and that nobody will know his exact skill set. The class then proceeds to vote on the bunker slots based on the positive points of their professions. While Georgina, the orthopedic surgeon, is easily voted in, Russell the harpist is voted out. After choosing to accept the seemingly valuable professional skills of a carpenter, electrician, senator, organic farmer, chemistry scholar, psychotherapist, structural engineer, and soldier, the class then moves on to selecting the last bunker resident. Having to choose between an opera singer and Mr. Zimet with his undisclosed skills, Mr. Zimet eventually wins the last slot in the bunker. To save the remaining students from facing their ends by radiation, Mr. Zimet ends them all in the same way as the harpist before. Seeing his brutal ways, Petra lets the group know that she doesn't want to spend an entire year in a bunker with someone like Mr. Zimet. Hearing this, James, the organic farmer of the group, gets everyone to gather crops and herbs from their surroundings and puts a secret plan into action. Accordingly, united as a group of 9 against their teacher, everyone gathers at the bunker before time and successfully locks Mr. Zimet out. A while later, Petra gets to the entrance of the bunker and sees Mr. Zimet in the aftermath of the atomic explosions. He holds up a note saying that only he knows the exit code of the bunker. The rest of the group then discusses whether or not their teacher is being honest, but they have no way to know for sure, other than to wait out the rest of the year in the bunker. Despite being only 9 people in the bunker, instead of 10, doubts about their teacher's logic and his wild card skill set result in the eventual downfall of the group. Staying in the bunker ends up being a waste of time, since after more than a year spent in the bunker, they could not exit the bunker without an exit code. As they run out of food and other supplies, the group finally meets its end. Back in class, Mr. Zimet reveals his profession to have been a bunker builder, which explains why only he knew the exit code. After the unsuccessful run of the thought experiment, he proposed a second round since the class now had a better idea of the entire situation. While the apocalypse and the bunker remain the same this time as well, it happens at a new location, and with an additional twist. Mr. Zimet adds, producing at least 1 healthy baby during the year in the bunker is a requirement for a successful round. To further force his students to think and use pure logic to decide the bunker residents, everyone is given more information about the character they are playing. For example, James is still an organic farmer, but is actually gay, and Georgina, the orthopedic surgeon, may or may not have been exposed to the life-threatening Ebola virus during her work abroad. While the group votes for James to be chosen since he could still choose to produce offspring, the threat of the virus ending the experiment leads to Georgina being voted out. Based on the extra bits of information, the bunker residents change to include the hedge fund manager, the real estate agent, and the housekeeper. In order to not lose out on the last spot in the bunker in this second round, Mr. Zimet ends the published poet yet again, even before his additional information is revealed. Along with the other students who failed to gain a spot, Georgina expresses her intention to drive to safety before the explosions. However, they are unsuccessful in outrunning the blasts. On the other hand, the winning group and Mr. Zimet rush to the safety of the bunker to officially begin the second round of the experiment. One night, when Petra walks in on James and Jack the chemistry scholar, it is revealed to the group that Jack is gay in reality. Additionally, To stay true to the traits of his character, James refuses to be with Petra, even for the sake of saving humans. This leads to the important discussion of initiating a pregnancy within the year in the group, and Petra ends up paired with Mr. Zimet for this purpose. However, despite there being several other pairings in the group, there are no pregnancies even after 10 weeks in the bunker. This causes Mr. Zimet to announce that the 4 girls will need to agree to multiple partners to prevent the extinction of human life. In response, Bonnie the soldier boldly threatens to end him if he forces such a rule without any sense of morality. In a rage, Mr. Zimet threatens the group with a gun and makes everyone leave the room except Bonnie. However, unknown to Mr. Zimet, Jack manages to stay hidden in the room. When Mr. Zimet aims his gun at Bonnie, Jack tackles him and eventually stabs him with a pencil. The second round of the experiment suddenly comes to an end when Mr. Zimet angrily opens the entrance of the bunker and exposes everyone to the external radiation. Back in class, instinct drives James to discover that the box they all drew their cards from had secret compartments. Hence, it becomes clear that their teacher rigged the cards, so James and Petra picked exactly those cards that he wanted them to. Mr. Zimet attempts to clarify that he simply meant to teach James a lesson about his privilege. He adds that he wanted to better prepare him for the real world that is different from the illusions he thinks are reality, all of which James refuses to believe. Instead, he demands a third round of the experiment. Since Petra agrees with James, it leads to Mr. Zimet approving a third round as well. On a new beach location this time, Petra appeals to the group to let her decide the bunker residents. When they agree, she chooses all of the skill sets and professions that were rejected in the earlier rounds for being non-technical. This means she lets in the wine auctioneer, the fashion designer, the published poet, the autistic harpist, the orthopedic surgeon, and the opera singer. Despite providing reasons for why she would like to include these students, Mr. Zimet sees her decisions as void of any logic and continues reducing Petra's final grade for the subject. Despite her falling grade, she chooses to add James for diversity and even includes Parker the gelato maker, who is also gay in the real world. With only 2 more slots remaining, Mr. Zimet urges Petra to choose smartly. Much to his disappointment, Petra adds James to the 9th slot in the bunker. Having fooled Mr. Zimet in advance, Petra and the others then force Mr. Zimet to leave, thereby ensuring that he does not participate in the third round at all. When he tries to argue that he is the only one who knows the exit code, Bonnie's additional trait of possessing eidetic memory proves him completely unnecessary when she recites the code. After Mr. Zimet takes off, Petra clarifies that she did not intend to save herself in this round, and instead adds Chips the carpenter in the last slot of the bunker. However, at the last moment, Chips manages to switch himself with Petra in the bunker and urges everyone remaining to join him and take their boat to safety. Despite the rocky beginnings of the third round, their year in the bunker goes by with the group entertaining themselves with cards, wine, poker, and enacting Shakespeare. Additionally, their published poet recites original poetry every month to ensure positivity among the group for their future. Creativity gets Petra and James to put together machine parts available in the bunker to make a harp for their harpist, who then even performs for the group with their opera singer. At the end of their year in the bunker, the group leaves and eventually discovers that the apocalypse never happened. Mr. Zimet then narrates what he imagines would happen in such a situation. He says that while their island remained unharmed, the rest of the world has been destroyed. However, since the surviving group lacks basic skills, they are neither able to find their way back to Jakarta, nor are they able to grow food to continue living on the island. Petra responds to this by saying that even if they had short lives, they were happy and satisfied, which made them strong enough not to fear their ends. Mr. Zimet includes himself in this narrative by arriving at the beach and saying that he managed to stay alive by being hidden in a cave. When he aims his gun at James, the rest of the group steps in front of him in solidarity. Hence, the third round ends with James detonating the missile that landed on the beach, thereby ending them all. After the class is dismissed, Petra stays back to talk to Mr. Zimet. As it turns out, without James knowing about it, Petra has been going out with Mr. Zimet. Since the philosophy teacher strongly believes that James does not deserve Petra, this entire exercise was actually to prove to her that her boyfriend is not smart enough and that Mr. Zimet is a much better option for her instead. Finally knowing his intentions, Petra asks Mr. Zimet to leave James alone, since intelligence is not the only thing that matters, as she proved in the third round of the experiment. On his own, after Petra leaves, multiple iterations of Mr. Zimet are shown based on the 3 rounds of the experiment conducted. One such alternative includes him spotting a gun in his drawer and finishing himself.